And so welcome to today's class. My name is Simon. This is an economics class whereby we are proceeding on with what you are talking about. That is on the consumer theory. This is the third topic in economics. God willing, we shall be finalizing it today. So as from next week, we may start our third topic. That is about the theory of the firm, and we finalize it. And when we're talking about the theory of or the consumer theory or the theory of the consumer behavior, all we are talking about is an explanation of, or we are trying to explain. Now, if now this consumer is possessing this kind of the behavior in regard to his consumption, why is he doing so? Or in short, you're just trying to attempting to give an explanation as to why consumer behavior is when faced with the problem of choices. And we came across that we say that there are two theories, whereby theory number one was the cardinalist, and theory number two was the ordinalist theory. And when we're talking about the cardinalist theory, we say that some of the assumptions that you need to know is that number one is that the consumer is rational, that he usually tries to maximize his utility. And number two, we say that the utility is measurable, that your level of satisfaction of consumption of a certain commodity can be measured. We also talked about that the marginal utility is constant. And when we're talking about the utility, we say that it is the satisfaction derived from consumption of a given commodity, is it? And when you talked about the marginal utility, we say that it is an extra satisfaction that is derived from the consumption of an extra unit of a commodity. And we further talked about how you can calculate your marginal utility, which is the change marginal utility. Say that it is the change of the total utility divided by the change in the quantity. Then we further communicated about the consumer equilibrium, and we say that consumer is at equilibrium when the marginal utility of a certain commodity is equal to the price of that commodity. Such as, for instance, if you're talking about commodity X at equilibrium, the marginal utility of X will be equal to the price of the X. That's where there is equilibrium, or the consumer is willing to consume. We later derive the MAD curve for the consumer, and we further as well criticized the cardinalist theory, whereby we said, number one is that the utility cannot be measured, or your level of satisfaction cannot be measured. And also we say that the marginal utility of money is not constant, because the desire of money is kind of, it is increasing, you see, to everyone. We also said another criticism that the rule of diminishing marginal utility is introspection, that is according to somebody's personal perspective. And last we talked that the rule does not apply everywhere. Like for instance, we have just said about the money issue, whereby the rule cannot apply there, whereby we are saying that the marginal utility of money is not constant. We were there. That was our last class. We talked about the issue to do with the cardinalist theory. So our today's section, we shall try the next explanation or the next theory that tries to or attempt to explain why the consumer behaves the way he behaves when he have a problem of choice. And that is called ordinalist theory. Ordinalist theory. Ordinalist theory. Ordinalist theory. And when you're talking about the ordinalist theory, all you need to know here is that we shall be talking about the issue to do with indifference curves. Are you together? Indifference curves. But before then, let's talk about the assumptions in the ordinary theory. Is that number one is that consumer is rational. Or rationality. In such a situation whereby now we are talking about a situation whereby now the consumer is trying to maximize his utility. Are you together? To maximize his utility. That's all about the issue to do with rationality. Number two is that the utility can be ranked in preference. Utility can be ranked. Can be ranked in preference. In short, what we are talking about, your satisfaction can be ranked into the level of your preferences. Like, for instance, when you are given a commodity of X and Y, we can be able to rank them and say X probably it's at 60, whereby the other one is at. So we can be able to rank our preferences. Are you together? Then utility depends on unit consumed. Utility depends on units consumed. That's another, that our utility will be determined by the level of consumption that we will consume. And lastly, consumer is consistent in his choice. Consumer is consistent in his or her choice. And these are the assumptions whereby arises when you're talking about the ordinalist theory. That's number one, the consumer is rational. And when you're talking about the consumer being rational, or what you're talking about is that the consumer aims at maximizing his or her utility. Number two, I've said that utility can be ranked in preferences. We can be able to rank our utility in such a situation whereby we know which is more preferable and which is less preferable. And then number three is that utility depends on the units consumed, that our level of satisfaction will be determined by the unit consumed. Then the next one is that the consumer is consistent in his or her choice, such that there will be no any form of waywire or in differentiations in terms of the choices that are made by the consumer. And these are the assumptions in the issue to do with the consumer. The next thing that we shall be tackling here is about the issue to do, or we can try to define the ordinal approach of the utility. You say it is also called indifference curve analysis. Indifference curve analysis. Or in short, when you're talking about the ordinalist theory, all what we shall be using is the indifference curve. Are you together? In short, what you're talking about is, we have said that utility can be ranked in preference, is it? So in this theory, we usually say that we cannot measure the utility, but we can rank the utility. Are you together? The other one, we were measuring the utility. That is the ordinalist, if you can remember. One of the assumptions was that the utility can be measured. But in here, we are saying that in this ordinalist theory, it states that we can't measure utility, but we can rank them in preference. So the ordinalist theory so states that we can't or we cannot measure utility, but we can rank. We can rank the utility in order of preference. In the order of the preference. And that goes without saying. When you're talking about that, this is also called indifference curve. What's an indifference curve? What's an indifference? Indifference curve. This is a locus of a point. Is a locus of a point. It's a locus of a point representing combination of two goods. Representing combination of two goods, representing the combination of two goods that yield the same utility to the consumer. That yields the same utility to the consumer. In short, what you're talking about here, it's like this. When we are saying about the issue to do with the commodity X, commodity Y, and commodity X, you see? They are more or less the same as this one. These are the indifference curve, is it? They are indifference curve. These are the indifference curve. Meaning that we can have something we call their properties, is it? We can have something we call their properties. Properties of indifference curve. As you can see them, the way they are. The property number one is indifference curve are non-intersecting. They are indifference curve are non-intersecting. In short, what you're talking about, that you shall never find a situation whereby now there is an indifference curve like that they are intersecting. Are you together? So the indifference curve do not intersect. Number two is that the indifference curve have a negative slope. Number three is that indifference curve are convex to the origin. Then the next one is that they have the indifference curve, they have the level of satisfaction, the higher the indifference curve, the higher the satisfaction. That means that this indifference curve have a less satisfaction compared to this indifference curve, such that the higher the indifference curve, the higher the level of satisfaction. Then the next one is that the indifference curve are parallel to one another. Are parallel to each other. In short, that's why there is this quality in that they do not do what? They do not intersect. And lastly, indifference curve never touches the axis. The indifference curve never touches the axis. In short, what we are talking about, that you shall never find an indifference curve that is like that. Is it? That intersects the issue to do with the what? With the axis. And these are the characteristics of the indifference curve. Of all the indifference curve that we shall be drawing, they shall be having these properties. That's number one. The indifference curve, they never intersect. So they never intersect in any way. Number two is that the indifference curve have a negative slope. They will always have a negative slope. Number three is that the indifference curve are convex to the origin. You see, they are convex, not concave. Then the higher the indifference curve, the higher the satisfaction. Then lastly, we are talking about the indifference curve are parallel to each other, and lastly, the indifference curve never intersects. Assuming now we have commodity X here. I want us we just understand this, and this is our indifference curve. This point A, point B, point C, point D. And together this point B. Here is 0. This is our indifference curve. And they have the following issues or the properties. One thing that you should know is this one, is that in the indifference curve, or you as a consumer when consuming, you can only consume at this level, whereby there is this rockers of a point, whereby it shows the combination of two commodities that yield the same utility. You cannot consume at D because your level of satisfaction is too low. You see? Yes. And neither can you consume at C because at point C it's unattainable in the respect to do with your incomes and so forth. Are you together? So have that in mind. Have that in mind. Have that in mind. Let's talk about the slope of the indifference curve. Slope of the indifference curve. And when you're talking about the slope, it's more or less the same as this one. Allow me not to draw another one, but you can draw this one. You can remember what we were doing in mathematics. We were drawing, when we were trying to find the slope or gradient of a rockers, we were drawing something straight, is it? Yes, it's more or less the same as this one. So the slope here will be equals to, allow me not to have a graph here, Hydra. The slope here, the slope of the indifference curve is the change in y divided by the change in x. I can remember, I know you can remember that, which is also equals to the marginal rate of substitution, marginal rate of substitution of x and y, which is also equals to the marginal utility of x divided by the marginal utility of y. Marginal utility of x divided by the marginal utility of y. In short, we are talking about, when you're talking about a slope, which is also the marginal rate of substitution of x and y, all what you're talking about is how willingness are we willing to substitute commodity x in respect to commodity y. Are you together? And that's the slope of the IS given that graph, that it's the change of y divided by the change of x, which is equals to the marginal rate of substitution of x and y, which is equals to the marginal utility of x divided by the marginal utility of y. Right together. So what you're talking about, it is a situation whereby when you're talking about the marginal rate of substitution, it's how it shows the rate, or this is the rate at which now the commodity X can be substituted with the commodity Y, and vice versa. It shows the rate, or this one shows the rate at which commodity X can be substituted with commodity Y, and vice versa. Vice versa. That's all about the issue to do with the slope of this issue to do with that. The next thing that you should know is something called budget line. Together. And budget line in layman's language, I want you just perceive it as your income, or what's your budget. Like for instance, I've seen a situation whereby when you're talking about the issue to do with the budget, before you go to shopping, people usually do what? Write a budget, is it? They write a budget, is it? So they're saying that I have how much? I have probably 3,000. So I will only spend either at the 3,000 or less than that, not more than that. Are you together? That's the budget line. It's your level of consumption. So you can like, it's a locus of a point. It's a locus of a point showing different combination, locus of a point showing different combinations, locus of a point showing different combination of two goods, X and Y, or two goods, X and Y, two goods, X and Y, that can be bought, with a given money income. With a given money income, given the market prices, of the commodity. I've said it's a locus of a point showing different combination of two goods, that is X and Y, that can be bought. With a given money income, given the market prices of the commodities. All what you're talking about, it is you have some income. You have your personal income, and then there is the prices in the commodities, probably of X and Y. So we are just trying to see which combination or which amount of the commodity of X and Y can you purchase with a given what? With a given income. And a budget line looks like this. All right? Budget line looks like this. It's a straight line. Are you together? It's a straight line. Assuming this is commodity, Y, and this is commodity, X. This is the budget line. Budget line. It's a straight line. Together. Meaning what? Meaning that the reason as to why we are saying that it's like this, it's because now the budget line is constant. Even if you are trying to maximize our satisfaction or maximizing our utility, or being consumer sovereign, you see, or in a situation whereby we are rational, we are trying to maximize our utility. All what you're talking about is that regardless of us trying to maximize the issue to do with the satisfaction that shall be derived from me consuming commodity X and Y, my budget line is constant. You see? The market forces or it will be the market forces that probably might determine the amount of the commodity of X and Y that I will consume. Are you together? Yes, yes. So it's always constant. It's always constant. Let's talk about the slope. Slope of the budget line. Slope of the budget line. And when you're talking about the slope of the budget line, assuming commodity X 0 and commodity Y. The reason as to why we shall consume a given commodity in regard to the respect to our income shall be the price, the market price of that commodity into the market, is it? Like we shall have our income in respect to the price of the what? Price of the commodity, such that our budget line being probably from A to B shall look like that. So our gradient line shall be gradient, which is the slope, will be equal to the price of the Y, or price of X in respect to the price of Y. Px right by the P Y. That's the slope. That's what we shall be finding our slope. If the examiner asks you which is the slope, and you should give him or her like that. Ama tulikuwa tunatafutaje gradient? Nasi tulikuwa tunaifanya aje? Tunaifanya y over px, is it? Divide by py divide by the p divide by y, is it? Am I right? Py, it's the other way around. Px, is it? Whereby we can cancel this and this. So it shall be 1 divided by py divided by px divided by 1. So automatically it is px divided by py. That's the formula, derivation of the gradient or the slope of the BL. Then let's talk about now. We want to now we combine this one, our budget line, with the indifference curve, is it? Because at equilibrium, of course, it is a situation whereby there shall be a tangent. Is it a tangent? Tangent. This was called tangent, is it? Whereby we have this. This is the tangent. Is it? Can remember that into the mathematics. This is the tangent, whereby now the IS and the BR intersect, meaning that that's where our equilibrium point is. Let's discuss about that. So consumer or derivation of the consumer equilibrium derivation. Consumer equilibrium derivation. And some of the conditions for us to have an equilibrium is that there should be a tangent. Number one, conditions of equilibrium. Number one is that there shall be a tangent, or there should be a tangent between the BL, or equilibrium happens at the tangent point of BL and IS. That's what you're talking about. Assuming you have our budget line here, you can consume only this is the point whereby there is equilibrium. Assuming this is our IS and this is our BR, is it? This is the point at equilibrium. That is the commodity E equilibrium, Y equilibrium, and commodity X equilibrium. Are you together? And number two, condition number two is this. It's about the indifference curve. It's this one, that the indifference curve should be convex to the origin. Indifference curve should be convex from the origin. Those are the issues to do with and so these are the conditions that have to be met for us to say that the consumer equilibrium is derived, such that when the equilibrium is at the tangent point of budget line and the IS. And when we are saying that the equilibrium or there is a tangent between the budget line and the IS, it's a situation whereby your marginal rate of the substitution of X and Y is equals to marginal utility of X divided by the marginal utility of Y, which is equals to the price of X divided by the price of Y. Or what we are saying is this one. We are equating this, the slope of the IS, with the slope of the budget line. So at the tangent point, note, at tangent point, marginal rate of the substitution of X and Y will be equals to marginal rate of X divided by the marginal utility of Y, which is equals to the price of X divided by the price of Y. So at this point, this whereby now the consumer is at equilibrium. And together, yes. And together, whereby we are equating the slope of the budget line with the slope of the indifference curve. Are you together? Yes. Hope that we are together. So the next thing that we shall be tackling about is about the issue to do with the changes or the effects of changes in income on consumer equilibrium. Effects, changes in income, effects of changes in all what you are saying is this one. Assuming now to change our budget line, because we have said that our budget line, it is the income, is it? Assuming now we have changed our budget line, what shall happen? In short, we are talking about a situation whereby now, to you, you had 3,000 as your income, as your budget line income of purchase of a certain commodity. And then probably it changes to 5,000. Automatically, there shall be what? You shall purchase more. Is it? Meaning that if we increase our income, is it? That's what we have been talking about. That is the sum total of everything that we have been talking about. That if we increase our income, then the budget line will shift to the right side. Is it? Our budget line shall shift to the right side. What about a situation whereby now our income or our budget line reduces? Of course, automatically, the budget line will shift to where? Shift to the left. That's what we have been talking about, is it? And if you have been following our classes appropriately and doing your revision appropriately, you don't need, that's all that you need to know. It's very easy to understand. So assuming we have the commodity X or commodity Y and commodity X. And this is 0. This is our difference curve. And this is our initial what? Our initial budget line. BL0, IC0. Is it? Assuming there is some increase in our income, automatically our budget line will shift to the right. Is it? We will consume more of the commodities of Y and X. Is that true? Is it? Meaning that our new budget line will be like that at BL1, and our new indifference curve will be there. Is it? At IC1. Is that clear? Is it clear? Yes. And assuming now we have reduced our income, automatically our budget line will shrink. Is it? It will shrink, or it will move, it will shift to the right. Is it? Meaning that it will move this way. Is it? That point to BL2. Meaning that our new equilibrium point will be at IC2, it will be at here. Is it? Is it? So, meaning that increase in the consumer's income, increase in consumer's income or increase in income will result. Mean that increase in income will result to what? To a shift. Increase in income will result to a right shift. Right shift of the budget line to a new budget line 2. Budget line 1 from budget line 0. And a new indifference curve 2. No, 1 from indifference curve 0. This is how you shall be explaining. Even if the You see now, there is actually, you must draw. In the examination, there will be a situation whereby you will have to draw. Explanation, just explain what you have just written. Is it? Yes. Just draw it like that. Just say that if we increase our income, then there shall be a right shift of the budget line to a new BL1 from BL0 and a new indifference curve from IC1 to IC2. To draw that. Also write about if we reduce our income. So, sir, right? If we reduce our income. The next thing that we shall be tackling, are we done? Oh, okay. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. For the online student, you can take a screenshot. For a rub, you can take a screenshot before I rub the board. So the next thing that we shall discuss is all about the effect of changes in price in the consumer's equilibrium. effects of changes in price on the equilibrium or on the consumer equilibrium, effects on change in price. The consumer equilibrium. That effect that arises. If you can remember very well, this is not the first time that we have talked about the effect of changes in price, is it? We have communicated about it in our demand analysis, as well as our supply analysis, is it? As well as the determination of equilibrium, just the immediate last previous topic. And we said that change of other factors results to shifts. Is it? Shifts. But when you're talking, that's why you're seeing here, there is shifts. Because income was part of the other factors that affects the shifts. You remember other factors, such as the issues to do with the taste and preferences for the demand analysis, factors of production prices, future expectation level of technology, you see? But we said movement around. Do you remember? Movement around only happens on the only factor is determined by the price of that commodity, is it? So we shall have the same issue here, whereby we have the different commodity here, assuming you have commodity Y and commodity X. See, assuming now the commodity of X have reduced, is it? The commodity of X have reduced, and the commodity of Y is constant. People will do what? People will desire to consume more of X in expense of Y. Is it? Meaning that our budget line is not affected, is it? But it will tilt in the supply, demand, and the determination of equilibrium. All what we are saying is that it's movement around. But now here, all what we shall be talking about, it is a situation whereby the budget line is tilting. Are you together? The budget line is tilting. So assuming now budget line like that, it will tilt like that. Are you together? Whereby, assuming now we have the price consumption curve here. Price consumption curve here. This is the price consumption curve. Right together. So the consumer shall be consuming differently, is it? Consuming differently. Together. Yes, yes. Such that we shall have our equilibrium 1 here, equilibrium 2 here, and equilibrium 3 here. So assuming now the commodity of X reduces, the prices of the commodity X reduces. Commodity X. Commodity X. People will tend to consume more of X in expense of Y. Is it? Like we are talking that, we said what? That a difference curve is just a locus of a point to show the combination of commodities with having similar utilities. Or what you're talking about is these two goods are substitutes, is it? You see? So if the commodity X price reduces, then people will tend to consume more of X in expense of Y. Is it? Yes, yes. That's why now you are seeing that at this point, the quantity here of X is small compared to at this point, is it? Because as we are changing the price of, we are reducing the price of the commodity of E. We are reducing the price of commodity E. People will tend to consume more of what? More of commodity X. Sorry, commodity X. If we reduce the price of commodity X, then people will increase consumption of commodity X in expense of commodity Y. Is it? And vice versa. Is it? Yes, yes. Is that understood? Is that clear? Thank you. Is that clear? Emmanuel, is that clear? Is that clear? I'm coming to you. Is that clear? Is that clear? Ibrahim, is that clear? Yes. I'm saying this, that the effect of the changes in the price on the consumer equilibrium does not shift the budget trend. It just tilts it. You see? It tilts it. Such that we are saying, when I've written commodity X here, this is the quantity amount of commodity Y. And this is the quantity of commodity Y. Is it? When you're changing the income here, our budget trend is shifting. It's changing. See? But in here, our budget trend does not change. All what changes, it is the consumption of the good, the amount of the consumption of the quantity. Are you together? Such that if we reduce the prices of X, people will tend to consume more of commodity X in respect to commodity Y. And that's why you are seeing at this point, this is a quantity of Y here before the alteration. Is it? Before the alteration. Or let's say that this is our QE1. QE0 is QE1. QE1, equilibrium 2. Assuming this is our initial point. Is it? Assuming that this is our initial budget line with it's the initial indifference curve, then the commodity X reduces its price. Then people will tend to consume more. Instead of consuming this type of the equilibrium at zero, they will tend to consume more in expense of commodity Y. That's why you are seeing it here, we are increasing the commodity E consumption in expense of the commodity Y, such that this is reducing, but this one it is increasing, and vice versa. Are you together? Yes, yes. If now in a situation whereby now the commodity of Y reduces, you see, commodity of Y price reduces, and the commodity of X is constant, then people will tend to consume more of, assuming this was our origin, people will tend to consume more of commodity Y in expense of commodity X. Meaning that people will consume it here at the point of equilibrium, such that one may consume from this point to this point. They will increase their consumption of commodity Y, but they will reduce their consumption of X. Are we together now? Yes, yes. Tuko sawa sasa. Thank you. That's all. Now write it down now in your own words. Kindly write it. Write it. Write it kindly. Given you 3 minutes for you to write whatever you have just discussed. 3 minutes. Have a nice one. Teacher. Have a nice one. Have a nice one. There is an error. It does not matter to say. And so, again, teacher, from here, from here. Valentine, watu wamesimu. I believe we are done currently. I believe we are done. So the next thing that we shall be tackling here is about, so the next thing that we shall be talking about here is about applications of indifference curve approach. Application of indifference curve approach. Which are some of the applications of the indifference curve approaches? And number one, just to distinguish the between the substitution effect and an income effect. One, to distinguish between a substitution effect and an income effect. That's whatever you have just said. This is an income effect, is it? This is an income effect onto the equilibrium, and this is the substitution effect, is it? That's direct, is it? That's direct. That's whatever you have just said, that this is the income effect, whatever you have just drawn in here, that the effect of the changes in the income on consumer equilibrium. And this is the substitution effect. Number one is to distinguish a given good and an inferior good. Distinguish given good and inferior good. It's used to distinguish between a given good and an inferior good. There is in determination of an income demand curve. In determination of income demand curve. Determination or derivation of income demand curve. In short, what you're talking about is or about the Econ curve. Econ curve. Econ curve. How does it come in? It's like this. Will I write? Yes. It's like this. Assuming you have different commodities, I'm hoping it's clear all the way to there. Is it? Even our online student. Assuming you have commodity Y and commodity or good Y and commodity X. Do you have the different budget line? 1, 2, 3. We said that here we shall have our what? Our different, assuming this was our indifference curve 1, meaning that this is our BR1. No, BR0. Let's write BR0. This is our indifference curve 1, BR1. Then lastly here we have what? Indifference curve 2, BR2. Is it? Then we have our income here. We have our income here. And we have what? We have our product X. So assuming that, then our Econ curve will be derived like this. Our Econ curve shall be derived like this. Have that and that, like that. Econ curve. Econ curve. These are Econ curve. These are Econ curve in respect to the income and the product of X. in short, what you're talking about is this one, is that you're just trying to determine the different levels of income that shall be able to substitute the product that we have. And look, that our age curve is not straight. It's not a straight line. Can you see? It's not straight. Yes. Right together. So what's an age curve? An age curve, it's a locus of a point that shows the relationship between the quantities purchased and the total expenditure. Right together. Age curve. It's a locus of a point. That shows, it's a locus of a point that shows the relationship between quantities purchased and total expenditure. Together. It's a locus of a point that shows the relationship between the quantities purchased. Is the quantity that we are talking about, the product, and the total expenditure. We are consuming at that, we are consuming at that, and we are consuming at that as the indifference curve increases. Are you together? Yes. And it is not straight. Age curve is not straight. Age curve is not straight. Age curve is not straight. Kindly remember it's age curve. Age, not A, but E. It's age curve. Age curve, not age. Not age. It's age curve. It's age curve. It's age curve. I like that. I think we can later about why the indifference or the age curve. Yes. Yes. How look at this point? We have a raw quantity. Is it compared to this point? Is it? So at this point we have more quantity. No, we have small or large quantity, larger, largest. Is it? Larger, largest. Meaning that even on to here, we have quantity here. At quantity here, it ought to be small, then greater one, then greatest one. Is it? You are asking about protein. How are you protein? Is it? Yes. This is how you are protein. Such that at this point, we have quantity Q that is being demanded. At this point, it is probably, this is Q1, this is Q2, Q0, and this one is Q2. Automatically, we shall have our Q2 here, Q0, and Q2. Is it? As you can see at Q2, this is a small quantity compared to the others, mean that you shall require a small income compared to the others. That's why our age curve, it's moving upward onto the right side, or in short, it have a positive slope. Are you together? Yes, yes. It is understood. Thank you. Thank you. Can I say this one? I was searching as to why edge curve is not straight, and I came out to this, that edge curve, you can write edge curve are not necessarily straight lines, because demand for some luxury goods may increase proportionately more rapidly than income, where else the demand for necessities may go proportionately less rapidly than income. That's why the edge curve is not straight, such that the edge curve are not necessarily straight lines, because demand for some luxury goods may increase proportionately more rapidly than income, or else the demand for necessities may go proportionately less rapidly than income. That's the real life situations, whereby you shall find a situation whereby some people, even if your income have rapidly increased, you shall find yourself buying some luxury things, even if the income increment is not at par with that the luxury desire that you have, is it? Short, what I'm to earn 100,000, and the next thing that you see, umenunua gari ya 3 million, is it? Yes, yes. But the necessities, when you're talking about the necessities, yes, the necessities might increase, but not that rapidly compared to that of the luxury. Is that true? Yes. Then number 4, that's number 3. Number 4 is all about the international economies. International economies determination. That is on the issue to do with to deal with what is now the effect of free trade. Is it? Issues to do with free trade. Is it? Issues to do with free trade. You can be able to trace them, as well as export promotion. You see, among other international economies. The last 3 is that the indifference curve can be applied onto the or to examine different welfare effects or different government policies, to determine different welfare effect, of different government policies, Together, to determine different welfare effect, different government policies, or what we shall be measuring here is all about the issue to do with the subsidies. What is the effect of the subsidies to the government, to the welfare of the people, and so forth. Is it? The last thing that you will be examined in this topic is about something we call consumer surplus. Consumer surplus. It's the last thing that I've ever seen being mentioned. Consumer surplus or welfare or consumer welfare. Consumer welfare. Consumer welfare. Or Masharian. 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 Masharian surplus. Surplus. And you say economic. Sorry. It is economic welfare. Sorry for that. It's economic welfare. Economic welfare. Economic. Apologies for that. It's economic welfare. You can say economic welfare is the sum total. Economic welfare is the sum total, or it's equals to the consumer surplus plus producer surplus. Are together? That the economic welfare is equals to consumer surplus plus producer surplus. What is that? The consumer surplus plus the producer surplus. I've said it's the sum total of the consumer surplus plus the producer surplus. What's that when you're talking about the issue to do with the economic welfare? Let's talk about the issue to do with the consumer surplus. Consumer surplus ni kama hivi. Ina happen hivi. Let's do signing. Attendance. Shall set to, yeah. So let's talk about the issue to do with the consumer surplus. It happens like this, the consumer surplus. It happens like this. It's like you have gone to the market to purchase something. Are you together? You have gone to the market to purchase a commodity. Then, to your calculations or to your perspective, is that this commodity called X is probably 1,000 Kenya shillings. Is it? Then you later find out that this commodity is just 800 Kenya shillings. Right together. The equilibrium price is 800. But to you, you had been determined that you will pay how much? 1,000. Are you together? Meaning that you as a consumer, you have a surplus of 200. Meaning the 200 here, it is the consumer surplus. Because how? So meaning that you are willing, you are so much willing to pay 1,000. Actually, that trader or that seller or that producer, if he would have known that you are prepared for 1,000, probably he would have told you that just pay the 1,000. Is it? But now you find that it is 800. Of course, it's a benefit to you. Is it? Have we understood that? Are you to Dennis, Emmanuel, Collins, Sarah, Sharon, Faith, Ibrahim, Rusi? Are you together? Your name? Eh? Can we are together? Have we understood that? So that's all about the consumer surplus. That you are willing, to your perspective, you are willing to pay with the 1,000, but the market equilibrium is lower than what you are deciding to pay. Are you together? Let's talk about the producer. This is the consumer surplus. Let's talk about the producer surplus. It's like you are producing something. Is it? Like, for instance, you are producing what? Probably pens. You see? Probably pens, or let's say, let's just generalize it, that you are producing a commodity. And then, to your thinking, is that commodity called Y, I will sell it at probably 500 Kenyan shillings. Right, together. So your perspective is that for these commodities now here, I'll be selling them at 500 Kenya shillings. Is it? Then, when you take them to the market, you realize that the commodity that you had that perspective that it was 500 Kenya shillings is now, or the market equilibrium price is 800 Kenya shillings. Are you together? Means that to you, there is a surplus that you was not expecting that you will gain of 300 Kenya shillings. And this now 300 is now regarded as the producer surplus. Anyone who have not understood that? Is it clear? Such that you are expecting to sell something at 500. You see? But the market equilibrium or the market forces is 800. Meaning that you have a surplus of 300. And that's what the 300 is, what is regarded as the producer's surplus. Are you together? Is it clear? Yes. Meaning, if we can diagrammatically draw them, is it? If we can diagrammatically draw them, the first thing, have we understood that? Yes? So meaning that if we can diagrammatically draw that perception about the consumer surplus, or let's combine them. You as a consumer, when you are coming to the you as the consumer, as you are coming to the market to buy, you are to buy that product at 1,000 here. You see? But the market is at 800. So you are willing to pay even 1,000. But the equilibrium is at 300. Means that this is the consumer surplus. This is the consumer surplus. Is that clear? Yes, yes. Then you as a producer, you thought that I will sell, or you had that willingness, or after you have calculated everything, you are thinking that product, you shall sell it at 500 bob. Right, together. But the equilibrium point is 800. Is it? Meaning that this shall be your producer surplus. Meaning that this is the producer surplus. Is it clear? Yes. And then the sum total of this and this one. You see? This and this one is the economic welfare, such that it is the sum total of the consumer surplus plus the producer surplus. Meaning that now here, we shall have an economic welfare of how much? We have here, this was 300 for the producer consumption was 300. What about for the consumer surplus? It was 200. So the sum total here in our example that I was giving is an economic welfare of 500 Kenyan shillings. The sum total of the consumer surplus plus the producer surplus. Is that clear? Anyone who is feeling that he is lost anywhere? Our online student, are we together? Are we together? Is it clear? Is it clear, our online student? The likes of Naomi, Mogire, and Perpetua, Tasha, Pakita, Collins, Dorins. Are we together? Let's see, yes, here from Perpetua, Collins, yes. So, that's it. That's all about the economic welfare or the Marshalian surplus. Is it? Marshalian surplus. Yes. Thank you for that. That's all about the Marshalian surplus. Can you be able to write it onto your own words? Or should I dictate to you? Huh? You write it, is it? Or I dictate to you? Did you write that? For those who are requesting me to give you the appropriate words, let's say consumer surplus, consumer surplus, consumer surplus, say is derived whenever consumer surplus is derived whenever the price a consumer actually pays is less than they are prepared to pay. They are prepared to pay. That's about the consumer surplus. Say that the consumer surplus is derived whenever the price a consumer actually pays is less than they are prepared to pay. Let's talk about the producer surplus. Producer surplus. You say that producer surplus is the additional private benefit, to producers in terms of profit, gained when the price they receive in the market is more than the minimum they would be prepared, be prepared to supply for. Together. Then economic welfare. You say, is the total benefit. Economic welfare is the total benefit. Availed or available to society from an economy or an economic transaction or situation. So economic welfare is also called community surplus. It's also called community surplus. It's also regarded as the community surplus. Any question? Chuba more comment. Everything is okay. Yes. Any question? I'm wishing you a nice weekend ahead. That's the end of our second topic, that is consumer theory. Next week we shall tackle, God willing, we shall tackle the theory of the family. We shall finalize within one or a maximum of 2 classes. Thank you.